All right, y'all, we're going to start something new where we learn our notes for the day from a video, and then y'all can practice later. So today we're doing Unit 5, Day 1. You should already have a title on your notebook that says, should say sequences and series, okay, not factoring with the greatest common factor. So the first example that we're looking at is 5, 10, 15, 20, and you have to figure out what the rule is to get from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and 15 to 20. Okay, and of course the rule would be that you add 5 every time. So we're going to put plus 5 right here. Okay, all right. The number that we started at was 5, so we're going to put 5 in the start area. Okay, and then you're going to write a now next equation, which means you're going to use the words now and next in an equation to tell me how to get the next term. Okay, so what this means is the next term in your sequence equals what you have now plus 5, because you told me, or I told you that the next number, you were always going to add 5 to get there. Okay, so that's how you would write the now next equation. For our next example, we have things in a table, right? We start out with -3, then we go to 6, then we go to -12, then 24, then -48. Okay, so the rule to get from -3 to 6, 6 to -12, -12 to 24, and 24 to -48 is going to be that you multiply by -2 every time, right? You do times -2. So that means in now next form, next equals now times -2. Okay? All right. So on these down here, the first one that we have is 2, 4, 6, and 8. Okay? So obviously every time you're adding 2 to get to the next number. You start off at 2, okay? And you're adding 2 every time. So you're going to get next equals now plus 2. Okay? I'll give you a second to write that down. Next equals now plus 2. In your next example, you have 3, 6, 12, and 24. Okay? We're starting off at 3, and of course we're multiplying by 2 every time to get to the next term. So that means your next term equals your now term times 2. So whatever term comes next, you're taking what you have now and you're multiplying it by 2. Okay? All right, then you've got 2, -4, -10, -16. And you might think you can multiply by -2 to get from 2 to -4, but that wouldn't work to go from -4 to -10. Okay? So you could also do 2 minus 6 and get -4. But if you do -4 minus 6, again, you get -10. And if you do -10 minus 6, you get -16. So that works. So we're starting at 2, and we're subtracting 6 every time. So next equals now minus 6. Okay? All right, number 4. We're going from 4 to -12 to 36 to -108. So what you would do to get from 4 to -12 and from -12 to 36 would be to multiply by -3. All right? So we're starting at 4, and we're multiplying by -3 every time. So next equals now times -3. Okay? All right. So in this last one, we have a table. 52, 46, 40, 34, 28. All this means over here is that 52 is the first term, 46 is the second term, 40 is the third term, 34 is the fourth term, and 28 is the fifth term. Okay? So what we do to get from 52 to 46, we subtract 6. That also works to go from 46 to 40, from 40 to 34, and from 34 to 28. So next equals now minus 6. Okay? And we started at 52. Okay. For our last example, we have shapes. Okay. We have n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3, and n equals 4. So that just means we have the first shape, second shape, third shape, fourth shape. Okay. The first shape has 3 corners, 1, 2, 3. So that means P equals 3. The second shape has 4 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4. The third shape has 5 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the fourth shape has 6 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So, to get from one to the next, we're starting at 3, and we're adding 1 every time. 3, 4, 5, 6. So, next equals now plus 1. Okay? You can also write an equation that just has n and p in it. Okay? So if you could figure out how to get from 1 to 3, you just add 2, right? That also works to get from 2 to 4. It works to get from 3 to 5, and it works to get from 4 to 6. So n plus 2 always equals p. So you can also write that. N plus 2 equals p. Okay? All right, we have one more example of that down here. We have our first shape, second shape, third shape, fourth shape. Okay? All right, this time P means perimeter. So the perimeter around this shape is 1, 2, 3, 4. The perimeter around this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The perimeter around this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the perimeter around this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so we just counted the edges. Okay, so we're adding 4 every time to go from 4 to 8 to 12 to 16. So what that means is next equals now plus 4. Okay? If you write it just with n's and p's, to get from 1 to 4, you have to multiply by 4. To get from 2 to 8, you also have to multiply by 4. To get from 3 to 12, you multiply by 4, and to get from 4 to 16, you multiply by 4. So, n times 4 equals p. Okay, you can also write it that way. All right, let's move on to the next set of notes. So these should also be glued in your notebook already, and your title should be Input Output for Linear Functions, Unit 5, Day 2, and today is still April 16th. Okay, so just to review a little bit, same thing happens. We have 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, and we need the next 4 terms. And it looks like we're adding 3 every time to get to the next term. So our next terms are going to be 15, 18, 21, 24. Okay, we just added 3 every time. So that means now next is next equals now plus 3. Okay? The next one is trickier. You have to figure out how to get from 1 to 5, 5 to 17, 17 to 53, and 53 to 161. That works every time. Okay? This one's a little bit trickier. But if you take 1 and you multiply it by 3, you get 3. And then if you add 2, you get 5. Right? Then if you take 5 and multiply it by 3, you get 15. Add 2 and get 17. Take 17, you multiply it by 3, you get 51, add 2 to get 53. So your rule every time is that you're multiplying by 3 and then adding 2. Okay? So if you take 161 and you multiply it by 3 and then add 2, you get 485. Okay? If you take 485 and you multiply it by 3 and add 2, you get 1,457. If you take that, you multiply by 3 and add 2, you get 4,373. If you take that and multiply 3 and add 2, you get 13,100. 121. So your rule is next equals now times 3 plus 2. Okay. For this next one, we've got 2 to 5 to 14 to 41. Okay. Similar thing's going to happen. We can multiply 2 by 3 to get 6 and then subtract 1 to get 5. We can multiply 5 by 3 to get 15, subtract 1 to get 14. 14 times 3 to get 42, then subtract 1 to get 41. So we're multiplying by 3, subtracting 1. Okay, so 41 times 3 minus 1 is 122. If I do that again to 122 times 3 minus 1 is 365. Then if I multiply that by 3 and subtract 1, I get 1094. And then if I multiply that by 3 and subtract 1, I get 3,281. Okay, so next, your next term equals now times 3 minus 1. Okay, all right, last part. We're trying to find our input-output table. So what this is just your X and Y values that are on your chart, okay, on this little table right here. Okay, so if I go over to X is 1, and then I go up to the dot, my dot is at 10 on the Y-axis. Okay, so my point is at 110. If I go over to 2 and up to the point, my point is at 9. If I go over to 3 and up to the point, my point is at 8. If I go over to 4 and up to the point, my point is at 7. And if I go over to 5 and up to the point, my point is at 6. Okay? All right, so we're starting at 10. And for every single Y value, we're going down 1. So next equals now minus 1. Okay? All right, last one. I've got 1, and my point is up here at 4. If I go over to 2 on the x-axis, my point is up here at 2. If I go over here to 3, my point is at 0. If I go over to 4, my point is at negative 2. And if I kept going over to 5, my point would be at negative 4. So I'm subtracting 2 every time. Okay, so next equals now minus 2. And I'm starting at 4. Okay. All right, so please let me know if you have any questions, and that's your entire lesson for today. Okay, so work hard on your homework, and we'll do this again for your next lesson. Bye.